On the day of my 6th anniversary with Ethan, his first love got a divorce. When their old flame rekindled, I found out I was pregnant. Before I left, there were many things I had to do. I needed to make him remember that it took him 6 years to win my heart. I needed to make him imagine the happy family he could have had. On the day of my 6th anniversary with Ethan, his first love, Amelia, came back when Ethan's family was on the verge of bankruptcy. Amelia had immediately dumped him and found someone else. I never thought she'd have the nerve to come back, dragging her child along, begging Ethan to give a widow and her orphan a place to stay. I watched as Ethan took off the pinky ring he never removed and tossed it into the restaurant's trash cart. Fish it out, and I'll help you. Amelia looked at the bin of greasy, warm leftovers and burst into tears. Ethan took my hand and walked away without looking back. Let's go home. I thought that after that day, whether it was love or hate, Ethan had finally let go. If only I hadn't found that same pinky ring in his wallet. A few days later, Ethan came home drunk, propped up by his assistant. Chris, ma'am, he's had a lot of business dinners lately. Please don't be mad at him. I nodded in understanding. I was handling the art direction for a project. Now that it's done, I'll be back at the company. Thank you for your hard work. Hearing this, Ethan, who had been leaning on me, suddenly sobered up. He looked at me cautiously. Haley, I hired Amelia to be a cleaner at the company. I was taken aback for a moment, then smiled. I trust you. We had been together for 6 years. 6 years of love and trust shouldn't be shattered by a single encounter. Seeing my calm expression, Ethan was at a loss for words. She's materialistic and malicious. Not like you, Haley, so gentle and generous. My Ethan is so successful now. She must regret it. I smiled and stroked his cheek. The bedroom light was dim. He ruffled my hair like we were in the early days of our love. A hint of seduction in the air as he unbuttoned his shirt with one hand. But I still don't think it's right. We don't have a child of our own yet. We had seen a doctor a year ago. He said we were both healthy and should just let nature take its course. I gently pushed Ethan away. I haven't been feeling well lately. My period was late, and I had been having some abdominal pain. Go to the doctor, he said, wrapping his arms around me gently. We should have a child. For some reason, the mention of a child tugged at my heart. I should go to the doctor. Ethan wasn't lying. Amelia was indeed working as a cleaner. She was in a black uniform, awkwardly sorting the trash, even with a mask on. I could tell she was wearing makeup and perfume. She froze when she saw me. Her eyes were a complex mix of emotions as she looked me up and down, her gaze finally settling on the diamond ring on my finger. It stayed there for a long time. Mr. Woods will be here for a meeting soon. Tidy up quickly, Chris urged her, but at the mention of Ethan's name, she suddenly knelt before me to clean the floor. I'm sorry, Miss Evans. I'll clean it up right away. Please don't be angry. Her head was bowed, her demeanor pitiful, as if I were deliberately making things difficult for her. And of course, Ethan saw it all, a slight frown creasing his forehead. Why are you suddenly on your knees? You were just mopping so half-heartedly a moment ago. Chris sneered, as if Haley was giving you a hard time. Ethan, displeased, cut Chris off. That's enough. During the meeting, Ethan was clearly distracted. Several times when I brought up the art direction, his mind was elsewhere, and his eyes kept drifting towards the door. He excused himself to take a call. The conference room was so quiet that we could hear Amelia sobbing from outside. She cried about how she had left him back then because she was scared. So scared. She said her family had also been hounded by creditors, and she had cried herself to sleep every night. She said she was just so envious of me, of being able to stand by his side as a supportive partner, openly and honorably. Ethan was silent for a long time. Then his voice came out hoarse. If you hadn't left when you were 19, that place by my side would have been yours. Everyone exchanged glances, then looked at me. Mr. Woods isn't here, but that shouldn't stop our meeting, should it? I said, turning to Chris. You're his secretary. You know his plans. I rejected Ethan's proposal and vetoed the art company he had in mind. Ethan didn't object, or rather, he wasn't really paying attention to the art project at all. After the art collaboration was settled, I went on a business trip for a week to follow up. When I returned, Amelia's desk was right next to Ethan's, not as a cleaner, but as his assistant. She was wearing a coat in the same color as mine, a mini-skirt, and high heels. Her hair was perfectly styled. Compared to her disheveled appearance outside the restaurant, it was like night and day. When she saw me, her hand, which was applying lipstick, froze. She quickly stood up and bowed. Miss Evans, Mr. Woods just feels sorry for me. He doesn't mean anything else. I ignored her. I pushed open the door. Ethan was waiting for me. Before I could speak, he had already closed the blinds, separating us from her. I just want her to see who I am now, not the poor boy I used to be, Ethan said, carefully embracing me. I have no other intentions. Don't worry. I was silent. The words fire Amelia stuck in my throat. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. I had considered that Ethan might still have feelings for her, but I had no concrete proof. I didn't want to become a jealous wife, making wild accusations, having a hysterical fit over a hint of perfume. Ethan wrapped his arms around me from behind, his hands covering mine. That pinky ring dug into my hand. It hurt. That day, Amelia's child came to the company. He rummaged through the receptionist's drawers, demanded a drink, and then threw up on a planner's computer. Amelia tried to discipline him, but after a few words, he started crying, throwing himself on the floor, kicking and screaming. I had my assistant warn her, do not bring your child to the office during work hours. It disrupts everyone's work. If the planner has to work overtime, the overtime pay will be deducted from your performance bonus. Amelia was taken aback. Then her head drooped as if she were about to cry. The boy, who was 8, saw his mother crying and threw a cup at me. I couldn't dodge in time, and my wrist was instantly bruised. He was still screaming, whore, bitch, if you weren't a homewrecker, my dad would never have left my mom. The office was in an uproar. Ethan rushed over. His first instinct was to look at Amelia, who was on the floor, shielding her child, and then he looked at me. Dad. The boy buried his face in Ethan's chest and made a face at me. Whispers spread through the room. Ethan was mortified. Is he your child? I asked, my eyes cold. No, of course not. At my question, he instinctively glanced at the boy, and only after confirming there was no resemblance did he quickly deny it. The child is just confused. His father passed away a long time ago. He probably just feels a connection to Mr. Woods. Amelia's eyes turned red again. I'm sorry, Miss Evans. Please don't take it out on the child. He's still young. Haley, let's go take care of your injury. Seeing the bruise on my wrist, Ethan's eyes filled with concern. Amelia froze, then raised her hand as if to slap the boy. How dare you upset Miss Evans? Ethan stopped her, telling her not to hit the child. The three of them looked like a familiar strict mother, a loving father, and I was the overbearing villain. Ethan applied a cold compress to my wrist. I looked down at him. His concern for me now was real. His anxiety was real, but his protectiveness of Amelia and her child just now was also real. All these years, was it hate, or was it just an inability to let go? Ethan, can you even tell the difference? Haley, don't blame them. Amelia has had it rough. A single mother raising a child. The boy is a bit shy and willful, but he's not a bad kid. I cut him off. Did I make their lives difficult? If he's so shy, why did he run into your arms the moment he saw you? When I knew, or didn't know, how far did you two go? He realized his mistake. Ethan, can I still trust you? He was taken aback by my question. This ring, was it a gift from her? Don't lie to me. Ethan didn't know that I had met Amelia long before he did. My parents' divorce was because of her family. Amelia and I were from the same town and were high school classmates. Her parents had made a small fortune in the clothing business. Later, they claimed to be in finance, going door to door, soliciting investments. Invest $100,000, get $5,000 in interest every month. My parents had invested all their savings, even borrowed money from relatives, a total of $300,000. They gave it all to them, and lost everything. The police called it illegal fundraising, a Ponzi scheme. Amelia's father disappeared with the money, leaving only her and her mother. Her mother just cried, refusing to talk about repayment. He's the one who borrowed the money. What does it have to do with a widow and her orphan? The family insisted they didn't have a penny, but for 3 years of high school, Amelia's mother still frequented beauty salons, and Amelia always had the latest phone. Her family had scammed many people, even in college. There were rumors that they were deadbeats. In our freshman year, Ethan was still the arrogant rich kid, driving a different luxury car to school every day to pursue Amelia. He even got into a fight for her. It was a big deal. Even after they broke up, Ethan still believed she was innocent and pure. Later, the Woods family's business collapsed. They couldn't collect their debts, and their creditors were demanding payment. Ethan's family went bankrupt. His parents jumped from a building. It was snowing heavily that day. A 19-year-old Ethan knelt before her, crying, begging her to wait for him. He said his family was gone, and she was his only reason to live. He said he wouldn't let her suffer. He just begged her to wait. Amelia, with her new lover on her arm, didn't even spare him a glance. Their love and their breakup were both dramatic, public spectacles. So the first time I saw Ethan, I had a hard time reconciling the legendary rich kid with the food delivery guy leaning over the counter. Order 78 ready. I nodded and handed him the packaged barbecue. For half a year, that was the extent of our interaction. Until one day, a group of drunk men tried to get my number. Getting handsy, I stood frozen, unable to move, unable to cry. Ethan cursed under his breath, took off his jacket, and started fighting them. Of course, he couldn't win. He ended up with a dislocated left arm and several cuts. As long as we don't have to pay them, it's fine. Your counselor is a pretty good guy. I looked at him trying to act tough, and for some reason, the tears just started to fall. Hey, don't cry. It doesn't hurt, really. If you don't believe me, punch me. He frantically grabbed my hand and made me punch him, but the wound really did hurt. He winced in pain, which made me laugh. Seeing me laugh, he smiled too. That's better. You look much prettier when you smile. My counselor handled the situation and got me a part-time job at the library. Ethan and I became friends. He was afraid those men would retaliate, so he walked me back to my dorm every day. Even though the dorm was less than 100 meters from the library, we went to different schools, so he went out of his way for 2 years. During those 2 years, Ethan asked me out 4 times. I liked him, I knew that, but my parents' divorce and the debt they left me with made me hesitant. But Ethan was persistent. He wasn't discouraged by my rejections, just scratched his head and said, well, I'll just have to try something else. His family's fall from grace couldn't extinguish the fiery spirit in him. I, on the other hand, was more reserved. Even if my heart was blooming with 1,000 roses for him, I couldn't bring myself to be open about it. It took him 2 years to melt my icy exterior. In our freshman year, Ethan had invested in his roommate's startup game. Later, he made one himself and had me play it. The game was simple. A little character collected items to use as keys to pass through levels. The character used dandelions as parachutes and kept fireflies in a jar for light. It was simple but charming. Strangely, the genderless character had a zodiac sign, Virgo. I asked Ethan about it, and he just smiled. You have to get to the last level. I'll tell you then. The last level was a barren floating island, guarded by a monster called the Beast of Time. Attacking it did no damage. It wouldn't take gold coins, and the keys didn't work. I was stuck. The day before graduation, Ethan asked if I had beaten the game. I said it was too hard. I had tried everything, but the monster wouldn't let me pass. Ethan told me to give the monster a rose seed, and so I saw, on the barren island, the screen filled with blooming roses. Game cleared. The next day was graduation. Ethan asked to see me one last time. We walked around the track twice. It suddenly started pouring rain. We ran to the library entrance to take shelter. The rain was a waterfall. The thunder boomed, but Ethan's voice was crystal clear. He looked at me seriously. You've rejected me 4 times. The first time, you said our signs weren't compatible. The second, you said you didn't like men. The game character is me, genderless, a Virgo, a perfect match for Haley's Taurus. The 4th time, you said you were afraid we would break up even if we got together. I know about your family. I know you have trust issues. That's why I'm serious. The moment I have enough money, I'm going to marry you. We'll have a happy family. I'll be good to you for the rest of my life. But the weather is terrible today. I know you're going to reject me again. He was dejected, because the 3rd time, I had rejected him because it was a cloudy day and I was in a bad mood. Today, it was a torrential downpour, a very bad day. I haven't learned much over the years, only that life is a raging river. If you don't hold on tight to each other's hands, you'll be swept away in the crowd. I'm giving you this game. To Haley, you have to take care of yourself. We probably won't see each other again. So, that's it. I have to go back and pack. Ethan couldn't look at me. He thought he was going to be rejected again, but I took his hand. Then let's go together. Okay. His eyes went from disbelief to pure joy. After college, we all went our separate ways. Ethan started a game studio and named it To Haley. Met when we had nothing. Ethan and Haley, like his promise, to get investors. We would take a 4-hour round-trip subway ride. When we were broke, we ate instant noodles with vegetables. Fancy ramen was a luxury. We couldn't afford to go to game expos or advertise. In 40-degree weather, we stood outside the exhibition hall, handing out flyers. The year To Haley made $10 million in revenue. He got down on one knee in the middle of the studio's celebration. He put a 3-carat ring on my finger. Haley, I know what it's like to be betrayed, so I will never let you down. I will give you a home. I will never make you sad. 6 years of our relationship couldn't be taken lightly. Ethan fired Amelia and threw away the ring she gave him. Everything seemed to go back to normal. except for the bruise on my wrist. Perhaps because of the cold, it refused to heal. We unspokenly avoided mentioning her, but that very silence made her seem omnipresent. Not a word was spoken, but it felt as if every sentence was preceded by a thought of her. For Christmas, Ethan booked a high-end restaurant. I was originally thinking of bringing you here for your birthday. He expertly cut a piece of steak for me. His phone lit up with a message. He instinctively glanced at me first, then looked down to reply. A smile on his lips that he himself didn't even notice. When he realized I was watching, he quickly put his phone away and told me it was a client. I nodded, resting my chin on my hand, looking at him, then out the window. He had barely changed over the years. If anything, his experiences had only made him more mature. I thought my injury was mostly healed, but I still felt a dull ache when I held my fork. Outside, a couple was looking in, but the restaurant was a bit expensive. The boy wanted to be a big shot in front of his girlfriend, but she, ever so understanding, gently pulled on his sleeve and shook her head. They were holding a steaming portion of stir-fried rice cakes, their necks tucked into their collars against the cold wind, looking at each other and smiling. For some reason, I suddenly envied them. Ethan finally put his phone down. Let's go home. I'm full. He walked on the outside of the sidewalk, sheltering me, holding my hand, and putting it in his pocket. These past few days, Ethan had been deliberately trying to act like we were in the honeymoon phase. We went on dates, took walks, and watched movies, falling asleep in each other's arms. Lately, I had been feeling heavy and sleeping restlessly. Ethan kissed my forehead and turned off the projector. His phone, under his pillow, was constantly lighting up with notifications. He tried calling my name. I pretended to be asleep. He carefully turned over to get his phone and went to the balcony to take the call. He might not have been talking to Amelia, but I couldn't trust him anymore. Ethan left. I sat up in the darkness and thought for a long time. I had thought about how to fix this relationship, but I couldn't forget the look in his eyes when I asked if the ring was from her, and he had nodded, his eyes red. The ring was gone, but the years-old indentation on his hand was still glaring. I also wondered if I was overreacting. There was no physical affair. He might have left for work, not for her, but I didn't want to become a suspicious, jealous wife, having a meltdown over every little thing, fighting with some other woman for a man's affection. An uncommitted love is no longer love. He could have cut ties with her from the very first meeting. He could have kept his distance, but instead, he used my trust to push the boundaries. The cold wind blowing in through the window was slowly chilling the heart that Ethan had spent 6 years warming. But even after weighing all the pros and cons, I couldn't help but feel sad. I didn't want to cry, but the tears wouldn't listen. So after all these years, I still couldn't have a home of my own. Our 6 years together were like plain water, bland and ordinary. Our days of huddling together for warmth paled in comparison to his passionate, heart-wrenching memories with Amelia. I couldn't even recall any earth-shattering moments to prove that fate had meant for us to be together. We met, fell in love, and would now part in an ordinary way. And what were they? A second chance at love, a dramatic reunion, a love story of a boy who was haunted by what he couldn't have. The pregnancy interrupted my plans to confront Ethan and get a divorce. The 2 bold lines on the pregnancy test left me at a loss. If it wasn't for Ethan, I didn't want a child. I was afraid of the pain, of death, and of not being able to raise a child well. Ethan, despite his family's downfall, had been loved by his parents. Unlike me, after my family lost their money, my parents fought constantly. I was a stumbling block to their next happy lives, kicked back and forth, stumbling my way through childhood. I felt that a family was enough with just each other. But Ethan had imagined himself as a father countless times. When we were renovating our home, he had set aside a room for a nursery. Because he didn't know if it would be a boy or a girl, he painted it a light green. The Lego wall for the nursery was expensive. I was hesitant, so Ethan convinced me to change it to a blackboard. He also built a bookshelf, excitedly pointing at the empty shelves. The bottom shelf is for picture books, then storybooks. By the time he's this tall, it'll be filled with college prep books. I would laugh at him for not being a reader himself but already fantasizing about his child being a top student. But he said it so many times that I started to look forward to it a little. I sat in that empty nursery for a long time. I thought about my divorced parents. After their divorce, they had hysterically fought over and taken everything they could from each other. Everything except me. Ethan had been looking forward to this child for 6 years, but he was not a mature father. He was still the 19-year-old boy kneeling before Amelia. I decided to give him one chance. I'm pregnant, I said, placing the pregnancy report in front of him. 1 month. Ethan was stunned, then excitedly helped me to a seat. don't stand, don't work. I'll have the driver take you home this afternoon. You need to rest. I leaned against him, pouting, saying I wanted him to spend time with me. It was about to snow in the city. We had met and fallen in love here. I wanted to go back and see it. Ethan was happy to make me happy. He took 2 weeks off. That afternoon, he eagerly dragged me to the mall. Maternity clothes, a stroller, picture books. The saleswoman, sensing his joy at becoming a father, enthusiastically pushed all sorts of baby products on him. Ethan held up pink and blue baby clothes, grinning foolishly, asking me which one was better. I stood by and watched him smile. We don't even know if it's a boy or a girl yet, and you're already buying pink. Boys can wear pink, Ethan said, surprisingly childish. He bought both. Back home, Ethan held the maternity dress up to me. Maternity dresses are often very girly. This one was a white baby doll dress with ruffles on the hem. It's just like when we were first dating. You used to wear these kinds of white dresses, and you'd smile at me, and I'd want to give you my whole heart. Ethan was reminiscing, smiling nonstop. I sat on the sofa, hugging a pillow, watching him bustle about. He was so meticulous. He even changed my slippers to non-slip ones, kneeling on the floor to help me put them on one knee, just like when he proposed. Sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating the fine dust particles in the air, casting a golden glow. He ran back and forth, and the empty nursery was slowly filled. Baby things are all so delicate and small. He hung immobile with stars over the crib. It would tinkle in the wind. Even the picture books were arranged by age, a rainbow of colors. All the cabinets were fitted with corner guards. The style of our home suddenly went from minimalist Nordic to a children's playground. I was surprised by his attention to detail, but Ethan's eyes were red as he said that after his parents' death, he had been dreaming of a complete family for 8 long years. Ethan stayed by my side, barely even looking at his phone. He wanted to come with me to my prenatal checkups, but I said I had just been, and with the flu going around, it was better to avoid hospitals. I still slept restlessly. One night, I woke up to see Ethan on the balcony, on the phone, running his hands through his hair in frustration. I heard the familiar sobbing on the other end, and the sound of a little boy's fussing. I watched him quietly. Ethan froze, then quickly hung up. Why are you standing there? Are you cold? Not cold. I just had a nightmare and woke up. I'm thirsty. Aren't you going to ask who I was on the phone with? Ethan asked hesitantly. I trust you, I said, stroking his cheek. In the moonlight, I could see the guilt in his eyes, so he was capable of feeling guilty. He pulled me into his arms, buried his face in my neck, and said in a hoarse voice, Haley, I promise, I will never let you down again. It snowed in the city. He must have deleted Amelia's number. He held my hand tightly the whole way, not once looking at his phone. The fresh snow was soft, making a crunching sound under our feet. Under my down jacket, I was wearing the white dress Ethan liked. The snow was falling heavily, and we were all a little childish. My snow boots left little snowflake prints. I would turn back and smile at him. Seeing me happy, Ethan smiled too. The food street in the university town had been rebuilt. The barbecue stall where I used to work was long gone. I still found the spot from memory. It was a phone repair shop now. Back then, when you stood up for me, did you even think about the consequences? I did, Ethan said, ruffling my hair, but you were so scared, and you wouldn't cry or ask for help. You were so stubborn. And even though you were stubborn, I was completely smitten. But I never thought such a stubborn girl would end up being my wife. Ethan laughed as he reminisced. Do you remember I chased you for 2 years? A whole 2 years. The first time you rejected me, you said our signs weren't compatible. The second time, you said you didn't like men. The third time, it was because the weather was bad. He was willing to talk about the past, so I smiled and listened. The last time was before graduation. I told you I was going to buy to Haley and give it to you, that you had to take care of yourself, that we probably wouldn't see each other again. And then you grabbed my sleeve, your eyes red, and you didn't say a word. I still remember that scene. The fourth time, how did you reject me? I looked at him, as if foretelling a destined end. Ethan, even if we get together, we'll still break up. He was taken aback, but he was more scared than I was. He quickly stopped me. We won't break up. We stayed at a hotel in the university town. We were like a couple in the throes of new love. During the day, we would share a cheap, hot snack, each of us trying to give the last piece of fried chicken to the other. At night, we would walk around the track where we used to have our dates, the evening breeze unable to cool the heat on our faces. The familiar surroundings brought back memories. He slowly remembered how we met, how we got to know each other, how we fell in love. The way Ethan talked about the past, so excited and shy, slowly merged with the image of his 19-year-old self. So he did remember all the times he had loved me. Then when did the hand that held mine so tightly let go? If our love at first sight, our mutual salvation, our sticking together through thick and thin was as precious as he said, then why did it pale in comparison to a heart-wrenching betrayal? It snowed that night. It was colder. The people on the street hurried along. Under a street light, I told Ethan to close his eyes. I looked at him closely. He had barely changed in 6 years. Still the man I loved. It felt as if the past 6 years had been a nap on a lazy afternoon. The next second, he would be leaning out the window, urging me to pack the takeout faster. The snow fell on our eyelashes, and for a moment, it felt like we were growing old together. He was making it so hard for me to let go, but thankfully, I knew I might soften. So the baby was gone before I told him. I wasn't that brave either. I had thought about giving him a chance. I checked his phone, his car's dashcam footage. If that night had nothing to do with Amelia, I would have forgiven him. But that night, it was Amelia's child who had a fever, and he had gone with her to the emergency room. He was still the same 19-year-old Ethan, but I couldn't wait for him to grow up anymore. In the falling snow, I handed him the divorce papers and my diamond ring. Ethan, let's get a divorce. My lawyer had divided the assets very clearly. Ethan had no shares into Haley, only a manager's salary. The house we lived in was bought with a mortgage he had saved up for. I didn't want to fight for it. All in all, Ethan would be leaving with nothing. The only problem was, he didn't want a divorce. When Ethan saw the papers, his eyes instantly turned red. He looked at them twice, his hands trembling, his eyes filled with disbelief. But, why? Everything's fine. Was it really fine? I looked at him calmly. Amelia. Is it because of Amelia? Ethan suddenly remembered. There's nothing between us. Seeing my silence, Ethan panicked. I've already deleted her number. I promise I'll never contact her again. That child isn't mine. I swear. Ethan, none of that matters anymore. Then what does? What is it? He begged, grabbing my arm. Weren't we happy these past few days? Weren't we? I cut him off. If you don't agree to a divorce, I'll have an abortion. He stared at me, then sank to his knees, clutching my skirt. Haley, I swear I didn't do anything to wrong you. At first, I just wanted revenge, but then I felt sorry for her. A child shouldn't be without a father. Our future is just beginning. Too late. It was too late. I gently pulled my dress from his grasp. Ethan, a clean break is better for the child too. He looked at me, stunned, searching my eyes for a hint of reluctance. I saw my own reflection in his eyes. No reluctance, no regret, not even hate, only indifference. That month, Ethan didn't go to the company. Chris couldn't reach him several times. He just locked himself in his room. Today, I came home. He ran to greet me, overjoyed, only to find that I was just there to move my things. Ethan watched as the movers slowly dismantled the home we had built together over 6 years. That pair of couples mugs, we had bought them at an amusement park. The small magnet on the fridge, we had made it from clay on a trip to Lijiang. It was so ugly you could barely tell it was me and him. And a pink snow globe, with an island inside, covered in roses. I didn't want anything that reminded me of him. There's nothing to take from the nursery. You don't need to look. These can all be thrown away. Thank you, sirs. Ethan had lost a lot of weight and looked haggard. He watched me throw memories into a cardboard box, and asked with a glimmer of hope, "Are you going to keep them?" "Just packing them up to throw away more easily." "Don't throw them away. Leave them for me." I didn't argue. Ethan's eyes were filled with bitterness, still hoping I would be sentimental. "You and the baby, take care of yourselves. I'll win you back." "Okay." "The baby's already gone." Ethan was stunned. "Why?" "The day I found out you went to the hospital with her, I had it taken care of. I didn't want my child's father to be with someone else when she was sick." "Why did you lie to me?" "Because I no longer believed you loved me. I wasn't sure you would have a conscience and give me what you owed me. Because I didn't think you would be so good to me. I didn't trust you anymore." In the rearview mirror, Ethan stood there, watching me for a long time. His shadow grew smaller and shorter in my vision, until it finally disappeared. The first thing I did when I got back to the company was fire Ethan. He didn't object. Unexpectedly, a week later, Amelia came to find me. I thought that after my divorce, they had gotten back together and she was here to gloat. But she knelt before me with her child. "I can't reach him. The creditors are at my door. I have no other choice. I'm divorced from Ethan. I don't know anything about his affairs." Amelia was taken aback, then quickly realized, "I don't mean to get in your way. I don't care about myself. I can live without a title. It's just the child." He's so pitiful. Mr. Woods just feels sorry for me. My parents divorced a long time ago. She hadn't changed a bit after all these years. Back in college, her new boyfriend was very influential. Even though she skipped classes and the rumors about her family being deadbeats were rampant, she still managed to get top grades. So what? It's not my fault his family went bankrupt. Amelia, dressed in designer clothes, would get teary-eyed and pitiful as the student representative. No one can choose their family. She was always so innocent, so fragile, so good at playing the victim to get what she wanted. Cheating was because she was insecure. Being a mistress was because her child needed a better life. 20-some years of a privileged life was because her parents or her husband were the ones who did wrong. She just innocently enjoyed the benefits. My parents got a divorce after you scammed them. I cut her off. I was the same age as you then. I had to take out student loans, work my fingers to the bone. I paid off all the debt in my second year after graduation. She was stunned. She tried hard to remember, but she had no idea who I was. That was our parents' generation. I didn't know anything about it. Amelia looked at me cautiously, realizing I had no intention of bringing up the past. I don't want to ruin your relationship. It's the child who keeps asking for his father, and Ethan likes children. No need to pretend with me. The first time you saw me, you knew my name was Haley. Who taught the child to call him dad, and who taught him to call me a homewrecker? I didn't have time to play games with her. If you want Ethan, go fight for him, but not with me. I've already thrown out the trash. During my marriage to Ethan, he bought a condo in your name, all cash, for $2 million. I know about it. You have 1 month. Either pay me back, or I'll see you in court. I know you still have a clean record, and I know you're afraid of ending up like your father, a deadbeat for the rest of your life. At this, Amelia's face went pale. The little boy clung to her, looking at me with confusion. For some reason, I suddenly thought of the child in my own belly, the one who never had a chance to come into this world. I had thought about keeping the baby and raising it on my own, but I knew myself too well. I craved love too much. I was too soft-hearted. I would never forgive Ethan, but I would definitely forgive a father who took responsibility. I had entertained the thought that maybe with a child, Ethan would change, would never hurt me again, but I have never been a lucky person, daring to bet that I would be the exception to the rule. Someone was always sending flowers to the office. No note, no name, but I knew it was Ethan. I thought that without me in the way, they could rekindle their old flame. After all, Ethan wasn't in a bad position. His severance package was generous. With his resume, it would be easy for him to find a good job. And Amelia, with her years of being raised as a pampered princess, even with a child, it wouldn't be hard for her to find someone else to rely on. Life isn't like a novel, where the scumbag and the other woman get their just desserts. People just keep on striving, each for their own future. The weather was getting warmer. It was May. I left work at 6. As I walked out of the office, the sunset was a brilliant display of colors. Ethan had been waiting by the streetlight for a long time. He was holding a bouquet of pink roses. His face was much thinner. The light blue shirt he used to wear was now a little too big for him. He looked so much like the 19-year-old Ethan who would wait for me outside the library, insisting on walking me back to my dorm, a mere 60 meters away. Happy birthday. I almost forgot. Today was my birthday. Thanks. I took the flowers, trying to think of how to refuse him. I'll just walk with you for a bit. I won't bother you. Ethan was always very emotionally intelligent. He saw my hesitation right away. At dusk, the street was filled with hurried pedestrians and couples walking quietly side by side. Haley, do you still hate me? After walking in silence for a while, he finally spoke. He didn't understand. The opposite of love was never hate. It was indifference. Love and hate both mean you care, but indifference is just indifference. I don't hate you. You probably don't believe me. I never crossed that line. My heart never changed in those 6 years. He was still trying to defend his love. But you don't know. Amelia and I have a history. I just never told you because I was afraid it would upset you. When you were pursuing me, people used to mock me, saying I was picking up Amelia's leftovers. But you know, when I set my mind to something, no one can change it. Back then, I just thought you were wonderful. Ethan was silent. Amelia's past. The years of rumors, I had never mentioned any of it to him. Even now, looking back, I only remember the good things. I remember you standing up for me, the roses on the island, you giving me to Haley, and your promise. Even though we ended up like this, I never doubted your sincerity in that moment when you made that promise. Ethan's eyes turned red. As the city lights came on, I could hear the clatter of pots and pans and smell the aroma of dinner from the kitchens. I saw a young couple holding their child's hand. The child was mischievous. insisting on jumping from one paving stone to the next. If we hadn't broken up, we would be like that, right? We would have a child. We would be preparing dinner together. Yes, if we hadn't broken up, this winter there would have been a soft little baby in the stroller he had so carefully chosen. Looking up at me and smiling, I stopped and looked at him. Ethan, let's just leave it at that. We have to go our separate ways now. I'll always remember what you said the last time you asked me out. Fate is a raging river. If you don't hold on tight to each other's hands, the next second she'll disappear into the crowd, and you'll never see her again. I'm not stupid. I knew Amelia had ulterior motives. I could see the ambiguity between you two. I just trusted you. I believed you would hold on to my hand, but you didn't. Under the streetlight, Ethan suddenly crouched down and buried his head in his hands. I couldn't see his expression. Maybe he was crying. The crowd was a sea, and his figure was swallowed up by it. The person who had promised to hold my hand tightly was now lost in the crowd. It would be a lie to say I wasn't sad, but sadness is always better than regret. Since we couldn't have a perfect ending, it was better to turn back from the sea of suffering and find my own peace. Ethan's addendum. Before Haley mentioned a divorce, Ethan had sensed something was wrong. Haley, who was usually independent but terrified of hospitals, had gone to her prenatal checkups alone. Haley, who used to share everything with him, hadn't messaged him in a month, but these were all small details, so Ethan chose to ignore them. Haley was a very sensitive and reserved person, perhaps because her parents fought so much. She had learned to read people from a young age. She was more sensitive to love and its absence than others. She had a high tolerance for pain and rarely cried, no matter how sad she was. In all their years together, Ethan had only seen her cry once. It was when he had played the hero and ended up in the hospital. Not like Amelia, who was so delicate and could cry and laugh on command, always making it easy for a man to feel sorry for her. At 19, Ethan couldn't imagine a girl like Haley existing, because at 19, Ethan was a freshman in college, arrogant, and believed his family's money could solve everything, from his grand pursuit of Amelia to investing in his roommate's game. Amelia was his first love. She was a pampered princess, so she had many little tempers. Though she was willful, Ethan was happy to indulge her. It was just a matter of spending some money and effort. Money flowed like water, and his relentless pursuit was always rewarded with a kiss. Ethan once thought that love was supposed to be this dramatic, until his family went bankrupt, and Amelia dumped him without a second thought. The first time Ethan noticed Haley, it was because everyone else would stare at the fallen prince, but she never gave him a second glance. Worn-out jeans, a t-shirt with a slightly stretched-out collar, a canvas bag from the university. The barbecue stall was quiet in the afternoons, so she would just sit and read. The table was wiped so clean it could have been a desk. Ethan observed her for several days. In her free time, she would read, or she would collect the leftover drink bottles for the old lady who collected recyclables. Occasionally, a classmate would come for a meal, and she would be a gracious host. Her name was Haley. The name suited her. Ethan couldn't say he liked Haley, at least not with the same desire for conquest he had felt for Amelia, but if she was there, and if she was the one who handed him his takeout, his day would be brighter. Such a good girl, if only she would smile more. And then she was being bullied, even at her most terrified. She just stood there, stubbornly refusing to show weakness. Ethan told himself, don't get into trouble, just get through college. But she looked at him, and with that one look, his hands had a mind of their own. This girl was strange. She didn't cry when she was being harassed. She didn't cry when she was being reprimanded by her counselor, but when she saw him smile, she cried. Ethan felt as if a part of his heart had been washed away by her tears. He didn't want her to cry, and with that one thought, Ethan pursued her for 2 years. When she was working part-time at the library, many boys pursued her. Ethan heard one of them talking about how unreliable he used to be, that he was not a good person. Haley had just politely declined. The Ethan I see is not like that. Please don't speak ill of my friends in front of me. The rumors were like a storm, but Ethan never once heard Haley complain to him. Ethan didn't know there could be a girl like Haley in the world, reserved, cautious, stubborn. Her heart could be blooming with 1,000 roses for you, but she would build a high fence. She wouldn't give a single one away easily. Her tuition was covered by student loans, and she earned her own living expenses. She lived a frugal life but never applied for financial aid. Ethan had always thought it was because Haley was too proud. Why didn't she ask her parents for help, to make her life easier? Why don't you ask them? Because they wouldn't give it to me anyway. It would just be humiliating. It was many years later that Ethan understood why Haley didn't cry, because crying needs someone to comfort you, and Haley had no one. She was friendly and gentle to everyone on the surface, but it was hard to get close to her true self. Ethan thought Haley was strong, with her own set of principles. It was much later that he realized she simply didn't have expectations of anyone. So when Haley said, "I hope we can be together forever," Ethan knew that was a heavier confession than "I love you." It meant Haley was starting to look forward to a future with him. When Amelia stood before him, Ethan admitted the 8 years of resentment had finally found their release. Haley was not at the company. Amelia returned the ring. She knelt in his office, begging him to remember their past. She said she regretted it, that she often dreamed of their time together. If Haley was a rose in a storm, Amelia was a delicate, clinging vine. On a whim, Ethan kept the ring, and he kept Amelia. Ethan thought Haley would be angry, but she said she trusted him. But what started as revenge slowly changed. When that little boy rushed into his arms, calling him Dad, Ethan's heart stirred. If I had a child, if Haley and I had a child. But Haley sensed something was wrong. Ethan panicked. He didn't want to leave Haley. He fired Amelia, trying to distance himself. But the once arrogant and willful Amelia was now willing to be humble, just begging him not to delete her number, until her child got a fever. In the car, Amelia leaned against him, crying pitifully. In that moment, Ethan admitted, his male ego was satisfied, but it was just vanity. He wasn't so foolish as to divorce Haley for Amelia, but the feeling was like dipping a toe in the water, intoxicating, until Haley got pregnant. Ethan wanted to give her the world, so he called Amelia in the middle of the night and told her they should stop contacting each other. When he turned around, Haley was standing there, watching him quietly. The moonlight was at her feet. It was December, and she wasn't even wearing slippers, just looking at him. For some reason, Ethan remembered that image so clearly. It was just like when she had asked for his help. The plea, the vulnerability, the reluctance in Haley's eyes was almost enough to drown him. With just one look, Ethan's heart ached, and he was completely sober. What had he done? He had almost ruined his and Haley's future. Ethan blocked Amelia's number. He slowly filled the nursery. Haley sat on the sofa, watching him with a gentle expression. The more Ethan thought about it, the more scared he became. Such a wonderful Haley, the Haley who had been with him through thick and thin. He had almost disappointed her. Haley looked beautiful in a dress. It made him remember the past. It was snowing in the city. For the first time, Ethan didn't think of the humiliation of being 19. He thought of waiting for her at the library, of braving the snow to buy her a warm plum blossom cake. But Haley had said they should break up. Ethan searched her face for a sign of hope, love, reluctance, disappointment, even hate, but there was nothing. The eyes that were once filled with love and adoration for him were now just indifferent. Ethan suddenly remembered that Haley didn't hate people, she just forgot them. 2 years ago, when they were finally financially stable, her parents had come to find her. Ethan was afraid Haley would be upset and rushed to the company, only to find her facing her parents' angry accusations and curses. No grievance, no rebuttal. Haley just looked at them with an indifferent expression, not a single tear shed. That look, it was the same as today. After Haley left, Ethan started looking for reasons. When she had gone for her prenatal checkup alone, Amelia was already his assistant, by his side. So when Haley was sitting in the hospital, waiting for the results, what was she thinking? Was she lonely? Was she scared? She was probably more sad than anything. So when the results came out, she hadn't told him right away. After she left, Ethan tried to win her back, only to realize they hadn't spoken in 2 months. Her chat window had been pushed down bit by bit. The last message was a picture she had sent him of a cloud that looked like a puppy, but he hadn't replied. What was he doing then? Oh, he was busy helping Amelia find a place to live. Finally, an app notified him of a video stored in the cloud. It was from the baby monitor he had installed in the nursery. It was 2 a.m. Haley was sitting alone by the crib. It was cold, and she was only wearing a nightgown. She was looking at his phone, the dashcam footage from that night. He had rushed out in the middle of the night, his car pulling up in front of Amelia's. Then Amelia got in. She sat there, stunned, watching the footage over and over again. She even zoomed in several times, trying to confirm that the person in the driver's seat wasn't him. The screen went dark, and Haley's eyes dimmed too. She sat there for a long time, like a child who had done something wrong. The cold wind blew on her, but she didn't seem to notice. Tears fell silently, soaking a patch of the carpet. Only then did she realize she should wipe them away, but the tears wouldn't listen. The more she wiped, the more they fell. Afraid of waking him, she buried her head and sobbed silently, watching the dazed Haley. Ethan felt his heart being squeezed. His throat felt like it was blocked by a sharp olive pit. He couldn't breathe. It hurt so much. He had always thought that Haley's actions these past few days, bringing him back to the city, making him remember their love, and then telling him they should break up, was her way of getting revenge, to lead him to the top of the rose-covered floating island, and then push him off, to shatter him into a million pieces. He was wrong. The person she wanted to shatter was herself. Haley was more decisive than he had thought. Moving out was her way of erasing the last of their memories. She left behind everything that had to do with him. Haley, please, at least give me a chance. For the sake of the baby is already gone, she said, her voice calm. Ethan was stunned. The night I watched that video, I thought about giving you a chance. If the video hadn't captured it, I would have just deceived myself. Her child was sick. You were worried, so I thought, if our child was gone, it probably wouldn't matter. She looked at him, her tone light, with no hint of resentment. After Haley left, Ethan spent a long time thinking about how to make it up to her. Flowers flooded the Haley office. He remembered the game he had made for her. He wanted to bring her a bouquet of roses, just like when he had cleared the game, and beg her for another chance. She didn't refuse the roses. Ethan thought he still had a chance, but the more composed she was, the more scared he became. Haley had said that the opposite of love wasn't hate, but indifference. When she spoke to him, she was still gentle and calm, but Ethan knew that the 1,000 roses that had once bloomed for him had all withered. He brought up the mischievous child. Haley cut him off, because she was no longer looking forward to a future with him. It was a warm evening in May, a perfect day, but Ethan felt as if he had been pushed back into that stormy day. She had let go of his hand, leaving him alone in the crowd. 6 years later, she had rejected him for the 5th time. I trusted you. I thought you would hold on to my hand, but you didn't.